Right now at 4:30, a stunning speech in the nation's capital. Last night, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace accused her ex-fiancé and 3 other men of sexual abuse, rape, and voyeurism. And one of the men accused lives in Rock Hill. Now, Mace spent the hour-long speech directly targeting South Carolina's top prosecutor for not taking action even after she claimed she alerted investigators.
Did South Carolina's Attorney General have any of these predators indicted after being provided clear, cut and dry evidence, including video, photos, witnesses? No, he did not. When the attorney of a victim asked to speak to the Attorney General, Alan Wilson, directly, he told the attorney not to send him any information, not to send him any documents. Did the state accept additional physical evidence from me late last year when I stumbled upon it? No, they did not.
All right, joining me now live right now is South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. And first off, Attorney General Wilson, I want to get your response here to Representative Mace's explosive comments there and also the speech that you saw last night on the House floor.
Well, the first thing I want to say before I make any comments about Ms. Mace's speech, I want to say that any victim, including her, who makes an allegation that they are a victim of a crime, that should be taken seriously and it should be thoroughly and expeditiously investigated by a law enforcement agency. My comments, however, are regarding only her comments about how we handled this case. The first thing I want to say is my office had nothing to do with this case. This case was never reported to us. It was never given to us. We were never consulted on it. The State Law Enforcement Division has an open investigation, which I only learned about the day before Ms. Mace's speech when she circulated her remarks to members of the media around the state of South Carolina. We learned about it from her. Ms. Mace has had my cell phone number since she's been in Congress. She and I have been at events together, and she's never once raised this to me. She's never once brought it to my attention. And any victim who thinks they've had has been victimized by a crime, you should go to law enforcement immediately, and you should report that. Her characterization that I told a victim's representative not to give me evidence is categorically false. What I would have said, and what I've said thousands of times to people with evidence of crimes, is that if you have evidence of a crime, don't give it to us. We're just the prosecutor. You've got to get it to law enforcement so they can do an investigation. That is not the role of the Attorney General, and she purposefully mischaracterized and lied about the role of the office on the floor of Congress last night.
Well, Representative Mace has been tweeting quite a bit over the past few hours here today. And when one response to your statement that you released last night, reading, quote, elitist SC Attorney General Alan Wilson must have forgotten most victims don't have his personal cell. We took the proper legal channels, but apparently he won't step in unless you send him a nudge text. Your response to that?
Well, that's a mischaracterization. I was speaking to her. She and I were colleagues and friends at one time. She could have called me directly, but any victim who doesn't have my cell phone, they call my office and inquire about a case, they will be referred to the appropriate law enforcement agency. I'm not even aware that she called the law enforcement agency that has this case. At the end of the day, her accusations that we have done nothing on her case are lies because we don't have her case. It has not been reported to us. The law enforcement agency that has this case doesn't work for me. They don't report to me. We only learned about this 48 hours ago. So Ms. Mace, again, is lying and mischaracterizing the role of the AG's office.
Yeah, and she claims that she has video evidence to support a lot of this and what she was talking about last night. We have a statement from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division last night which says it is open the investigation into those claims. Should your office be involved?
Well, if you finish reading the SLED statement, they also said they haven't referred it to a prosecution agency, so they're actually corroborating our statement that we don't know anything about this case. Should my office take it? First off, my office wouldn't normally be involved in this case. This would be referred to a local prosecutor or a local solicitor's office, and I've spoken with the local solicitor down in her area, in her first district, and they have not received anything from the State Law Enforcement Division either. Again, everything that she said about us is categorically false and untrue. We would never tell people not to give evidence to law enforcement. We would always direct them to law enforcement. And if they couldn't get to law enforcement, we would facilitate that. But again, if Ms. Mace really had these problems, she could have called me and we could have had a thoughtful conversation, and I would have certainly reached out to SLED on her behalf. But I didn't even know that this case existed, more or less her allegations.
Yeah, and Congresswoman Mace's comments there on the House floor, they're protected under the speech or debate clause, which protects lawmakers from being sued for what they say. Your response?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, she did publish the speech to members of the media the day before. That's for lawyers and people to decide. I'm not going to speculate on whether she has civil liability for what she did. That's for others to decide. What I'm concerned about is that she has undermined the credibility of law enforcement. And there are victims out there right now listening to me talk to you, or who listened to her speech last night, rather, who were on the fence, deciding whether or not they should go report the crime that occurred to them to law enforcement. And now they're second guessing themselves. I've had victims advocates all over the state of South Carolina reach out to me today and tell me that they think that this has set victims advocacy back decades because of how it's undermined law enforcement and it's undermined the credibility of victim services providers. And again, victims out there, don't call a politician's hotline because you don't know if that information will actually make it to law enforcement. If you're the victim of a crime, you call law enforcement directly.
You know, one of the things that really can't be overlooked here is both you and Congresswoman Mace are both names here that have been floated as possible running mates for South Carolina governor next year. And with all due respect to the allegations made by her of a very serious crime, do you feel that Mace's comments here are in any way politically motivated?
I don't see how they could be anything but politically motivated. I'm not going to speculate as to what's going on in her mind and driving her to do this. But again, something has got her very upset, and she's been attacking me a lot the last couple of weeks. I don't follow her on social media, but I have friends that tell me that apparently I'm living in her head. The problem here is that she is undermining law enforcement, and she's actually hurting her cause. Again, we did not know about this case. We're not involved in this investigation. And when the law enforcement is finished completing the investigation, it'll be referred to a prosecution agency who hopefully will do the appropriate thing with that information. But this right here, what would drive somebody to go to the floor of Congress and rant about this? Again, if she is a victim of a crime, she deserves justice and she should get the investigation completed. But the accusation against me and members of my staff are categorically false, and they are really, it's unfortunate.
And would you anticipate anything, any kind of a case possibly against her going forward if there's nothing to be found in this investigation?
That would be pure speculation on my part. Again, I'm not concerned with anything else other than the credibility of my office and the men and women in law enforcement who she is undermining and attacking their credibility. By attacking my credibility, she's attacking the countless men and women in blue who are out there trying to do justice, try to do right by her and every victim. Again, what she said last night on the floor of Congress about me and about my office are categorically false, and it is misleading the public. And she's banking on people not understanding how the criminal justice system works. She's banking on that because she is really trying to create a publicity stunt here. And frankly, I think it's very sad that you would politicize the criminal justice system this way.
All right, we've got to leave it there. We appreciate your time. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, thank you for joining us today on Queen City News.
Thank you.
Now, we reached out to Congresswoman Mace's office for comment about the response from the Attorney General's and today's interview as well. And so far, we have not heard back.